Welcome back to the Lanterne Rouge Cycling Podcast. Long time no speak. I don't know what Benji's been up to. I don't know what I've been up to, but we're back with the Giro d'Italia route reveal. They've got it right. I feel like the Giro, they eventually do take on feedback, both with the parcours, the transfers, the sequencing of stages, but also when they announce the whole damn thing, because now they jump the gun and get in about a week and a half before the Tour de France.
Yep.
And everyone's ready to see the route, and it's I don't mind it actually. The 107th edition. Before I get into the headline numbers, Benji, in 10 seconds, your first reaction before you went through all the profiles. Your first reaction.
My first reaction was that the parkour didn't inspire me to hype up before the race. That makes sense?
So you were a bit like, not sure about this.
Exactly. That's exactly the take I had.
Yeah, I agree, and I got into it a bit more in depth this morning when the proper profiles came out, because the RCS ones are like if I hand drew them, and so you can't really understand too much about the parkour from that. They say 6 sprinter stages. I count 7 for a Phillips and Coy Pedersen type sprinter, maybe even 8. Two time trials though is the headline, I think, totaling 68.2 kilometers. That is a flashing light. Pogacar, Primoz, Remco, please come to our race. Grant Thomas, please come to our race, because the Tour de France and ASO, they don't look after you with the TTK. So nearly 70 Ks of TT, most of which is a flat. 5 mountain stages. I counted more. 4 uphill finishes. 8 undulating stages according to RCS from the 4th to the 26th of May. Less climbing, I think, than last year, and definitely, I haven't looked at the stats. The stages seem significantly shorter to me. It starts in Piedmont, in Turin, and then stuff about the Gran Torino tragedy. But yeah, it then finishes in Rome. They go south from Turin after touching the Europa climb, through the Abruzzo, through Praticativo down to Napoli, which keeps getting stage finishes, and then back up the eastern side of the Italian coast with some sprint stages before lots of climbs in the Dolomites region in Lavinia, which will be familiar to others, and also in the Udine region, which is where Jonathan Milan is from, and quite a few good riders near the Slovenian border. So I think it's... I thought there was going to be a foreign start, Benji. Isn't there normally a foreign start in even years?
I'm not sure if it's even years. I think there was a specific rule that said you can only do it every X amount of years.
Okay.
I completely forgot what that rule was,
Every
but I
2
mentioned
years,
it at some point last year, I think. And in this specific one, yes, it's a local national start. I don't mind that. I kind of like it that the Tour of Italy starts in Italy, because story time, very short. I met my wife in Budapest, and now every time I have to talk to a person that asks me, how did you guys meet? I have to explain to people why the Tour of Italy started in Hungary. So that's why I like a national start every now and then.
Maybe it's every 4 years. I think I made that up. I think the rule is it can't be every 2 years, more than every 2 years. It was obviously, 2022 Hungary, and 2018 was in Israel, the edition Froome one. So maybe in 2026 we'll have one.
I think it's every 4 years you can do a non-adjacent country to start with.
Okay.
So that's why Basque Country was allowed for the Tour de France, because that's adjacent to France.
And Brussels in 19 for the Tour, no?
Correct.
Are you on the border of France?
Yes, we are. Well, not anymore.
Who is we?
I'm not in the UK, but that's a good question.
All right, we won't get into the internal political dynamics of Belgium. We'll get into this Giro parkour. You know how we normally do it. We go stage by stage, reviewing the profiles. Luke will have them up on the screen if you want to watch along on YouTube. We'll also timestamp it so you can come back to the podcast in 7 months to say, hey, you guys were absolutely wrong on how this parkour would play out. Most of the time, actually, we're scary. Our track record's not too bad on these ones as well.
The thing is,
sorry, go on.
Whenever we do this, we don't necessarily know who will go to the race. Sometimes we have a view of these riders will definitely go there. Especially with the Tour de France, it's pretty easy to have a clue that Vingegaard will likely go to the Tour de France next year. When it comes to the Giro, that's a lot harder. And we're kind of in the dark of which riders will go there, but speculating beforehand, do you have GC riders that you 100% expect to be there versus ones that you want to see there?
I really don't. This is the big question mark and makes analysis of this parkour difficult because, this year the riders really do make the race. If for some reason there is a GC stalemate and riders want to ride and wait till the last stage and teams don't want to do anything, it doesn't matter what parkour you put, really. Now you can do certain things and maybe not backload it too much, but you're right. I would say Geraint Thomas, right?
Yeah.
But then I don't know how many TTKs the Tour has yet. I don't know how gradual and long the climbs in the Tour are. I don't know if there's like a cobble stage or some classic style stages in the north where he thinks he can cut his teeth on the crosswinds. UAE, I don't know either. I can say for sure Roglic will do the Tour. There's just no way he does the Giro. Vingegaard, I don't know. Really? I don't know why he can't do the double.
The double in that sense. I don't know.
Of course he has to do the Tour. He has to do the Tour, but why can't he do the Giro Tour?
Well, the Giro Tour is often seen as more difficult than Tour of Vuelta, but on the other hand, I'm also feeling like the parkour Giro and Tour might fit him more than the Tour of Vuelta parkour of the Vuelta then coming afterwards.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, like, I personally feel like he will more likely go to Tour of Vuelta than Giro Tour.
Yeah, because it's the safer option because you can make sure you come in good shape in the Tour and then you see how you are in the Vuelta. But you're right, the Giro suits him better than the Vuelta typically. Remco says he wants to do the Tour next year. This Giro really suits him again.
Yeah.
really, really suits him. So
and
it's tricky.
We're spoiling the parkour a tiny bit by saying it, but there's not too many multi-puerto stages in this parkour where there's not like 5 stages with 4 mountains in each of those stages. And that's also beneficial for riders like that who might have trouble on those stages or might not be proven on those stages yet. And that will also increase the ability of someone that has a good time trial skill to be able to hold their advantage because the others can only make the difference on the final climb in some of these stages. That makes sense?
Yeah, there's just not many stages with multiple back-to-back long or steep climbs. The only one is the Grappa one that stands out. Even the stage to Brocon is the kind of shallow climbs. So I don't know, like, will UAE want to pair Ayuso and Almeida together? Mm-hmm. I don't know. Could Adam Yates win this Giro? Absolutely, with the form he's shown. So maybe UAE think he's actually, and I agree, Adam Yates would be their best chance to win the Giro if Pog doesn't go. I think I have him above Almeida and Ayuso. So I can't really say anyone that's a lock to go, really. I think it's like you say Carapaz, right? Because the start list is soft, usually in the Giro. But then the TTKs. And then there's Hindley and Vlasov at Bora. I think Vlasov will definitely do the Giro.
Okay, that's like likely in my eyes.
And Simon
Yates.
Yates.
Simon Yates I would also want to see on this parkour. Adam Yates as well. But for the Pogacar card for a second, how do you see the Olympics fit into a Grand Tour season? Because on one end, you would say that, for example, in the World Championships this year, we also saw that having it after the Tour de France caused the top 10, I'm pretty sure, of the riders in the World Championships were mostly riders that rode the Tour, right? So
yes, Van der Poel.
Do you have that effect as well if you, for example, have the Olympics after a Grand Tour and therefore they might choose to go to the Tour instead of the Giro? Because like otherwise you could say, oh, you can focus perfectly on the Giro, on the Olympics, and then on the Lombardia, for example, if you're Pogacar, something like that. But on the other hand, you're also thinking maybe the Tour de France is good as a build-up towards Olympic. Olympic is after Tour, right?
It's after the Tour, yeah. It's after the Tour. Because it's before the women's Tour de France. They actually have them split by the Olympics next year.
Does this make the Giro Tour even harder than it usually is?
If you want to do Olympics, I don't know if the Giro starts later than it finishes on the 26th of May. It starts on the 4th of May, and the Tour de France starts. So it finishes on 26th of May, and the Tour next year starts on the 29th of June. So there's actually maybe even a week less than normal between the two. So good luck getting recovery in an altitude camp in. I mean, maybe you just stay in Italy, Benji, because the Tour de France starts in Florence. So just stay there.
Sepka's doing all the Grand Tours again, right?
Just to get that Airbnb weekly rate. Anyway, we're about to get into the stage by stage analysis. You know how we do it. If you want to support the podcast, we still have our merch available on shop.lanternerouge.com. Get your significant other maybe a surprise present for Christmas, although that would mean that they would have to listen to this podcast. Maybe just suggest to them, which we've had a few of those orders.
No. The gift that you give your significant other is being able to listen to this podcast together.
Okay. Whatever floats, whatever works for people, I guess. But most importantly, check out the LRCP t-shirts, mugs, and LR hat on the merch website. And yeah, thanks for all the orders so far. It's been fantastic during the Vuelta to see all of them. And we've really enjoyed seeing all the photos on Instagram or wherever when you've tagged us when it's dropped in to your house. So shop.lanternerouge.com for those. Okay, stage one, Benji. The Giro is starting, and this has become a very common actually in recent years in Grand Tours, not just the Tour. A difficult stage, not a sprint stage. Starting in Venaria Reale, finishing in Turin. 3 climbs, get progressively harder. First 2 don't count, they're not that hard. Short stage, 136 Ks. And then the Colle della Maddalena, 6.4 Ks, 7.1%. Crest, 20 Ks roughly from the finish, 19 Ks from the flat finish. Who is this? Because when I looked at the Heiskebel, right, I thought Van Aert and Pedersen, they make that finish. And then it ended up being really hard. I still think this is a Wout van Aert, Ethan Hayter type finish. Is it too hard for Coy? Is it too hard for Pedersen?
Well, Van Aert nearly made it that day, right? Was that the day that Lafay stole it?
He got dropped and then came back, and then Lafay went,
Well, stole it. You know what I mean? The thing is, like, you're saying that. I agree. It's also a much shorter stage. We're talking 136 kilometers instead of the 200 plus kilometers that the Heiskebel stage in the Tour de France was. But you're right. That climb is similar in that sense. The distance afterwards is similar, like you mentioned. First of all, it's good that they've got multiple climbs in the stage. Okay, REM points available for the breakaway. I like it. Secondly, the second climb, like you said, indeed irrelevant, because that's the easier side of Superga. It's not the Milano-Torino side of Superga. And that last climb is like, this is the kind of climb where I feel like if a GC rider wants to try and do something, it's possible. But in the Giro, I think with the Giro GC riders that I have in mind, unless Pogacar shows up, I feel like this is going to be a reduced group sprint afterwards, or a rider that rides away from a reduced group sprint like Lafay did, for example. But like you said,
Bettiol was in that group with Lafay. Bettiol was in that group too with Lafay.
Correct.
I don't know if it's too hard for Milan. It really depends how it's raced, which is why I think it's quite an interesting stage. Because, you can drop Milan on this climb, even though I think he's really good. Can you drop Caden Groves on this climb? Now you're going to have to set a really hard pace to do that. And you're going to have to keep him behind in the valley afterwards. So that's the one where it's interesting to me. Mads Pedersen as well. It's pretty good for him, but I think they'll send Milan. So I think it could go either way. You could even have we've seen in the Vuelta, a Marc Soler, Jay Vine type attack on this climb, like you alluded to, Benji. So I think an interesting start, not just a boring basic sprint.
Yeah, exactly. And stage 2 is also quite exciting already because we've got the first mountaintop finish, I would argue. We've got Francesco Alcampo to Europa, 155 kilometers long. First half of the stage completely flat, so not exactly a hard climb at the start. That means that the breakaway should on paper be controllable, but the last half of the race is undulating, I would say. There's a few categorized climbs there, 2 of which land just before the final climb, and the final climb is the Europa climb. Santuario di Europa is a finish, and the climb is 11.8 kilometers at 6.1%, and I vividly remember that bloody climb because I, as a fanatic Nibali fanboy in the past, I cried when this stage happened in, was it 2017, I think?
Yeah.
Where Vincenzo Nibali furiously attacked, and I started celebrating because he had a gap, and then Dumoulin followed, then Dumoulin countered, and then Dumoulin dropped Nibali. And I became really sad because Dumoulin was on absolute fire that day, and Dumoulin was not the only rider in the history that has put Europa on fire in the past. But the thing I want to say here is an excessively stronger GC rider like a Pogacar versus second tier GC riders, Pogacar can make a difference on this climb.
Oh, brilliant climb for him.
Otherwise-
Brilliant.
Otherwise, I feel like it could be a GC group sprint.
Because it's 12K, 6%. So it's not that hard, but there's the 4K section at 9%. And so
Yeah.
this is the perfect climb for Pogacar and for Dumoulin, where you have the last 3Ks are about 5%. And so he gets the separation on the end of the 9% after being set up by whoever. And then good luck bringing back someone like Pogacar with that engine and a little bit heavier than a Simon Yates on the flatter section. So
Yeah.
you're right. It really is a good climb for riders like that.
Almeida,
He's been okay at these sort of stages,
Yeah, but
I think.
if he starts Almeidaing on the steep section,
Yeah.
then it's going to be hard to come back afterwards, is what I mean.
Yeah, I never know what's going to happen with that, man. But there could be gaps here. There's not much flat in the 2 hours before they start Europa either. They're not hard climbs before, they're medium mountains, but it's not just in 2018 or 2017, it was like a Unipuerto absolutely flat beforehand. So,
But
stage 2 though. Ooh.
Maglia Rosa will be up for grabs, right? Based on stage 1, most likely the gaps won't be huge. It will probably be still GC riders in the same time. So there might be incentive for pacing in the peloton just for the fact that the Maglia Rosa is up for grabs in the first place.
But do they let the breakaway win like they normally do on Etna or whatever, so that a Rain Tarame type guy takes the Maglia Rosa?
That, on one end, it's possible, but on the other hand, there might also be a GC rider that says, I kind of want to try it.
Oh, well, yeah, I want to win, and there's only 5 uphill finishes, so you're right. And this is why the Giro, I think, is nice for Pogacar or Roglic or even Remco. Like I said, any of those three, you look at this stage, you're like, they will win this stage, sprint or whatever. The next stage 3, easy sprint stage on the coast, I think down from Genoa. Flat final kilometer, but it's preceded actually by 2Ks at 4%. And so that's just, that could make a difference with positioning. Not because you're not going to drop Merlier, I don't think, on 2Ks 4%, but he might slide. And it's not enough time to make up positions in the last K. If you slide from P5 to P30 and then you have to move all the way back up again, that can make a big difference. So I think it's a nice sprint for Groves, for Coy. Pedersen, obviously brilliant on these. Even Milan, actually. Milan is really good for these. Do we normally pick a winner?
I think
we normally do.
Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't, because it's so unknown whether these riders will be there. But Milan is also one of the riders that I look at for this kind of stuff. And I'm starting to wonder, like, what if you make like an absolute beast of a train at Ineos on this stage, for example, and you've got the train that is Joshua Tarling leading out Filippo Ganna on the last 2 kilometers on that like uphill segment, and then Ganna tries to win after the uphill section is done. I would also like to try and see that. But I agree, Milan is one of those names where I look at here, and it's like 700 meters is flat, to be exact. After like 1.5K, 5% is what I had. But like most World Tour sprinters get over that. If Olaf Koy is here, I see Olaf Koy competing for the stage at the finish.
Yeah, for sure. Guys like that, it's more the Groeneweg and Jakobsens of this world who Welsford have. Like I think Broe, I think they've got to send Welsford to this race, given the number of sprints. But positioning will be important. I think it'll be an interesting finish regardless. Stage 4 for you, Benji.
Mate, we got to talk about stage 4. Aki Terme to BTEC Andorra, called Andorra. 187 kilometers.
They don't even have low tax rates in that one. You don't have the double R.
And not only that, if you look at the parkour, first thing I said when I looked at the parkour, the shape of it was, this is BTEC Milano Sanremo from Aldi. And I looked at the parkour and it's finishing just after one of the capos from Milano Sanremo. This is Milano Sanremo from Aldi. I wasn't kidding when I saw it the first time. And like, it's not a Turchino in the middle of it. It's shorter. It's 187 kilometers. And the climb at the end, the Capo di Mele, I think it is.
Yeah.
That's like, it's not notable. It's like 800 meters at 4%, something like that.
1.8 Ks.
1.8K at 4%. It was too tiny, the letters for me to read. There's a roundabout at 450 meters. The flat run is pretty simple. It's pretty straight road to
descend
finish
into that
on.
roundabout.
Yes, but it seems like a relatively safe finish, I would say. And a pretty straightforward sprint on a wide road, so this should be a good sprint.
it's kind of a rinse and repeat of the stage before, because I don't think the early climbs make any difference to this stage whatsoever.
Correct.
I think you're going to have to be in good position for the capo, and if you're sliding back, it's going to be difficult to move back up with that descent. So, yeah, all the same names: Coy, Pedersen, Phillips, and Milan type operators. Groves, of course, should have no problems. Stage 5 is a more straightforward sprint in terms of hills, from Genoa to Lucca. It does, though, like the finish is flat, false light downhill from the last 20 Ks. There's a 4% roller before. It doesn't bother anybody about 20 Ks from the finish. What I'm interested in is, in the previous stages, very flat starts. By the way, we haven't mentioned that.
Yeah.
Every stage, the first 4, pancake flat starts. This is the first stage with actually 4K 6.5%, and then actually up and down for the first third. So, and some of that steep. Will we see Magnus Cort, Derek G, Nico Denz, Simon Clark, Alessandro De Marchi, like in that Napoli stage? Will we see those type of operators getting into the break, or Wout van Aert or Bettiol in this first third to try and make it harder for the sprint teams?
I would like to see that. Like, whenever I see start climbs on a stage like this, I see that it will be harder for the actual sprint teams to control what's happening there. And I hope that we see a situation like that. They might also consider, stage 6 might be something for me as well. We'll talk about it in a second. So they might consider resting at that point, the breakaway riders. But I would like to see some breakaway sprinter fight on this one. When it comes to the actual sprinting kilometer to the final kilometer, there's a chicane at 600 meters to go, but it looks a bit sketchy on the map, but I don't think it's going to be the end of the world. If it's in the last 100 meters, it will be a problem, but it's 600 meters to go, so riders should be able to handle that at this point. So
Magnus
I don't
Cort's
know.
on UX. He can't go. He won't get the wild card.
You're right. He can't be there.
Okay.
Unless the Giro is very un-Giro and gives it to unpolitical teams, so not to Italian ones.
Or Tudor.
Well, that's also kind of political, isn't it?
Yeah, they're Swiss, and they sponsor the race. So
the time trial is literally called the Tudor ITT.
Is it?
Yeah.
To Techno Gym ITT this year. Okay, I think it's those. I'm gonna go with the enemy Nico Denz wins this stage from the breakaway.
I'll let you take that. I'll keep my pick secret until the actual Giro preview next year. So everybody has to watch for that one.
Okay.
Stage 6, Viareggio to Rapolano Terme. When I saw Rapolano Terme, I was like, "Oh, that's Montalcino region," and the parkour does show that 177 kilometers, and the first 40% of the stage is flat. Then the hills start to come, but the hills aren't super exciting either. It's not like the hills midway the stage will do much, but the last third of the stage, that's where it gets interesting. We've got 3 Strade Bianche sections. The first one is literally the first section from Strade Bianche in, I think, 2017 until 2023. I didn't check the older editions. Vidrita segment, 4.4 kilometers, relatively flat. And then we directly, after like a kilometer after that, go into the next segment, which goes from Bagnaia, I think, or Bayania, something like that, to Grotti, 2.5 kilometers at 6%. But in reality, that's more 2 kilometers at 7% and then 500 meters flat. But that will matter, especially on gravel as well. They seem like doable gravel segments. They're not the crazy gravel segments either. And then it takes another, I think, roughly 20 kilometers to get to the next Strade Bianche section, which comes with roughly 20 kilometers to go. The Piavina segment, which on paper looks flat, but it's actually more descending and punchy because it starts off going down 4%, and then it jumps into a little hill, and then into another hill in the second part of it, which is basically 10% punches. So that could also do some damage if you really push on that. But this is, for me, a hard stage to predict because there's such limited Strade Bianche segments that sprint teams might be intrigued in this. But on the other hand, you might also look at breakaway opportunists for this because the Strade Bianche segments are there. But I'm also like, if you are focusing on sprint teams for this stage and they try and keep it together, they want to get their sprinter towards the finish line like this, what if I'm a GC rider and I know that I've got this competitor that can't ride over rocks at all? Why don't I push it for these segments and
like
hope
Pogacar.
that something happens? Potentially.
Like if he did this race and he was there with Remco or Roglic, he goes for it, right? like he gets his team to push on this sort of stage, or your Tom Pidcock.
Roglic wasn't terrible on that stage 20 at the Tour de France with some gravel on top of that one climb.
Oh, on top of Gliere when you're on your own is a little bit different to everybody coming in as a group for 4Ks of flat gravel.
And especially the positioning beforehand for Roglic.
Yeah, so I don't see
Roglic
it.
is doing the Tour. Why do we talk about Roglic?
I'm just saying it's Poggi, a great stage for Poggi. What's interesting to me is the first hour 45 is flat. So like you said, Benji, it's going to be difficult for a breakaway to form. If Alpecin decide, hey, you know what, we can just win this stage with Caden Groves. Like, why can't we win? It doesn't finish up a wall in Siena. The last climb is with like 30 Ks to go, 25 Ks to go, and it's not even that hard. So, yeah, maybe Alpecin, there is a 700 meter 4% thing, but that doesn't bother Groves. So, even Pedersen, Van Aert, should Van der Poel do the Giro? Does that depend on the Olympics? Because I know he'll be doing the Olympic mountain bike. So he might not do the Tour de France if it's not the best preparation. Yeah, so he'll be focusing on the Olympics. So maybe the Giro is very attractive, and we see a really nice list of riders going for this Strade-style light stage.
Yes, but it would have been more attractive if there were more punchy opportunities later in this race. There's a few there, but it's not like there's not like an Alaphilippe style finish in this race necessarily. But anyway,
I'm going to go for Kasper Asgreen to win this stage.
Okay, Kasper Asgreen, that's not impossible.
Yeah.
But I want to see him in the Remco Grand Tour team. And if Remco indeed goes to the Tour de France, where there will also be Strade Bianche segments, he will need Kasper Asgreen there.
He probably will, yeah. Stage 7.
Was that a rumor that there are also Strade segments in the Tour?
Yeah, the white gravel roads, because they tried it out on the women's tour a couple of years ago. Stage 7. Long TT, 38 near kilometers from Foligno to Perugia. 45 minutes, man. I think is roughly how long this will be, with the last 6 kilometers irregular uphill to the finish, a 1200 meter 10% section, bit of flat, false flat uphill finish, some 800 meter 9% punch straight after the 10% section. Judging from the Tour de France, everyone will do this on the TT bike because this is not as difficult as the Dolmoncy climb, where the majority of riders did not change except for Pog. And I think it's not so steep that, like the Lusari TT that just killed Thomas. So, yeah, this is a really, really good parkour for Thomas, a good time trial for him, or Gegenhardt, frankly, or Hindley, really. Does this make, like, Ganna can't win this against Thomas, right, Benji? Or Van Aert.
I don't know. The steep segment of the Perugia climb, which is in that
he's too
last
heavy.
segment, it's a kilometer at 10.8%, a kilometer at 7.3, and then 2 basically flat kilometers afterwards. So it's 2 kilometers of very steep.
Yeah.
That will matter, but Ganna can also build up a proper lead before that. So I can't tell you if Ganna can't win this, because Ganna's pretty bloody good on a time trial bike. I don't see bike change. It's too short, that segment, I reckon.
No.
But I'm also asking myself, which other GC riders could go to this race that have a TT that could combine that with climbing? Skjelmose comes to mind. Jorgensen came to mind as well, but I'm thinking he might do classics and the Tour. Did you just throw something while shouting Almeida?
Fly swat, yeah.
Aggressive man.
Adam Yates.
You wanted to fly swat Almeida? Did I hear you say that?
I don't know if he'll do this race, but I'm looking at this. Simon Yates, Adam Yates. Yeah, they got to be looking at this thing, and we can do a good result here. And we can take time on, I'm not sure how much time G would take on Adam Yates on this parkour, because he would fly on that final time uphill. So, Peyo Bilbao was good in the Tour de France, Lusari TT.
Yeah, but I feel like Bilbao's flatter TTs have been weaker in the recent years.
Yeah, they're not good. And there's no descending for him to make up time either in this. I think G wins this one, though.
Okay.
I think it's just good enough for him. I think he wins.
Skjelmose takes it.
Yeah, he's good. Or you saw Almeida. It'll be interesting as well, to see how they go against the specialists if Koen, Ganna, and Wout van Aert come to the Giro as well. All right, stage 8, Benji.
Stage 8 from Spoleto to Prato di Tivo. And when I think about this final climb, I think about many things. Pogacar doing very well on that, but also Wout van Aert trying to defend GC. And you just mentioned Wout van Aert, and I'm like thinking, we just spoke about it, Tom. We've got Prato di Tivo in here. This is Tirreno 2.0, the one he competed in. should Wout van Aert come to the Giro to ride for GC? That is the question I'm asking.
GC
But
Van Aert.
we got to talk about the parkour first. This parkour is 154 kilometers, if my screen says it correctly. Yes, it's not a flat parkour. It's not a Unipuerto climb. It's basically starting with a smaller hill, I would argue. That hill is 8 kilometers, 8.8 kilometers at 4.3%. Then running towards the next hill, Forca Capistreo, which is 16.4 kilometers, 6%. So just to declare that is breakaway formation madness. I like that. I like seeing stuff like that. Then it's undulating for the next 50% of the stage, basically, until we get to the Croce Abio, which is 7.5 kilometers, 4.9%. And then we're in the last 50 kilometers of the stage. So we descend towards the bottom of Prati di Tivo. And that is a big climb, huh? 14.7 kilometers, 7%. Very steady climb. This is the climb where we had the amazing attempt of Ineos to roll attacks on Pogacar, where I think Bernal went first and then Thomas.
Yeah.
Thomas, then Pogacar attacked the other one and jumped over the other one. Or
G got a gap. Poggy went to him and dropped everybody.
Yeah, something like that. So that didn't really work out, but it was fun to see though. Prato di Tivo, in my mind, the gaps aren't gonna be 2 minutes between each rider, but there are gaps on a climb like this. And I went back to Tirreno 2021, 12 riders in 1 minute. Tirreno 2013, 11 riders in a minute. 2012, 10 riders in a minute. So I reckon there will be gaps. It's always a solo winner within those 3 races. But is that different because it's a 1 week race where they're forced to attack because it's the only mountain stage in that race?
I think there's going to be big gaps here because this is a hard stage. This reminds me of the Havalambre stage in the Vuelta. It's got what? Over 4,000 meters elevation. There's barely any flat in the whole stage. The first 2 climbs are very difficult, where we could get satellite riders. We could even see the Sepp Kuss Havalambre move from a second-tier GC contender launch on that Capistrello climb, because there are steep sections. There's 5Ks at 7.5% on there at the start of that. And then you got to control undulations all day, and then that finishing climb's 36 minutes is the record, I think, or what Pogacar did it in 36 minutes. Yeah, it's not high altitude. Yeah, it's regular, but it's steep enough. I think this is going to be a very, very interesting stage, actually, and I'm hoping it's exciting and teams kick it off. So I don't know who's, as I said, I don't know who's going to the Giro, but
there's no point in predicting these stages.
Yeah. I think, I think I'll take Adam Yates to clean it up, though. I think it's a good stage. I think this is, I can't remember how hard Blockhouse was. Let me have a look it up, because Hindley won that stage in when he won the Giro last year. He won it from a sprint. He got dropped and came back. But that was also, I mean, we always get a bit more excited. That was 192 Ks. Actually, extremely difficult start, and had the Passo Lanciano before, but ultimately had 10 riders within a minute, as you said, and 5 guys, or 6 guys rather, within 3 seconds. So the parkour can be nice, but the riders and the teams have to use what they have there. And I say there is enough here to do something on this stage, like on Havalambre. Stage 9, 209 kilometers. Oh, by the way, have we had... Let me look it up. I'm just cycling through.
Terrifying.
This is the first stage over 200 Ks, and we're on stage 9, and it's a sprint stage, and should be good weather normally in the Napoli region in the south of Italy. So from Avezzano to Napoli, pretty much no categorized climbs until 4 hills in the outskirts of Napoli. Not anything too dangerous. 3Ks, 3.5%, 2Ks, 5%, 3.2Ks, 4.5%, 1K, 6.7%. I think it is enough. I think that is enough to maybe get rid of some sprinters, though, if you really launch it. Breakaway can also win, but what was the stage Binny and Van der Poel went on, where Thomas de Gent won? Because this is, I think that was also
harder.
It was?
Yeah, that was harder. That was definitely harder with Mauro Schmidt and so forth, right?
Yeah, that was in the 2022 Giro, finishing in Napoli, and you're right. Wow, that was a classic circuit that had hills for 100 kilometers. So I think this is a sprint.
I think so too. A reduced sprint, maybe? Maybe
Yeah,
a few.
like slightly thinned, yeah.
Yeah, I think so as well. And the thing is, like, yeah, there's pinches up to 10% in those climbs, but an average World Tour sprinter should be able to get
They're
over
fast
these
climbs.
climbs. Exactly. And especially with the sprint towards these climbs will be important, stuff like that. I enjoy seeing it. It's close to the finish, the last hill, though, but it's not a crazy one either. So
No.
I agree. This is going to be a sprint. Then the Milan types will fight it out with the somewhat hilly able riders that are sprinters. And to be honest, most sprinters these days should be able to get over this parkour.
Yeah, exactly. Like
who can't? Mareshko, that's for sure.
Jakobsen, Merlier, Groenewegen, and Welsford are the guys you would try.
Groenewegen had one stage this year where I was like, wow, he's
in the
still here.
Dauphiné.
Was it?
He and Bennett lasted quite a while, actually.
Yeah. True.
So
the stage that Jumbo opened it up, right? Or tried opening it up and they failed?
Alaphilippe won, I think.
Really?
Ooh, the sprinter Alaphilippe won. Can't remember really. Maybe
Me neither.
I think Alaphilippe won. Anyway, that rounds off the first week. We've got a long TT. We've got what I think is a very hard mountain stage. We've got a fair few sprints. We've got a classic stage. We've got a difficult opening start. I think it's a lovely opening week, Benji. There's not a lot of filler here.
Yep, I think so. I think so as well. The first week might not be the... there's some sprint opportunities. I reckon there's sprint opportunities there, but they're also not the purest flat sprints either. So it's kind of like they're going to have to combine hillier sprints with pure sprints in there. But I agree that it gives something for everybody in the first week. And I'm just curious what we'll see when it comes to break reaction on those Montalcino-like Strade stages, for example, that one stage there, and maybe that one sprint stage that had mountains at the start, whether we'll see a breakaway win on Europa, stuff like that. I hope not. Hope to see GC fighting it out there. But I'd say in week 2, it starts off with a bang as well. We've got Pompei to Boca de la Selva, 143 kilometers on stage 10. And this parkour, once again, 58 kilometers of flat at the start of the stage. I want more mountain stages with a hill at the start, because that makes breakaway so much more fun. Like, it's somewhat disappointing to see that sometimes. The middle portion does have some undulating moments. A 6-kilometer climb, for example, at 7.5%. Not sure that still classifies as just undulating, but that's all in preparation of the final climb, which there's 20 kilometers of false flat to this climb, but the true climb length is, I'd say, 18 kilometers at 5.6%, and that's fake news climb, right? Because I'm looking at the profile of the climb and I'm like, this climb is harder than that says. The first 6 kilometers is average 7%, 6.5% probably. Then it's falls flat for 6 kilometers. And then the last 6 kilometers is 7% average, but 4 kilometers above 7.5.
Yep. It's a long climb with just 2 short recovery periods of 2 or 3 minutes within it. I think it's quite a difficult finishing climb. When you compare this, to the Gran Sasso stage, for example, this is more difficult than the Gran Sasso stage, which was won by
Mattia Weiss?
The YOLO man, again, ahead of Karel Vacek. Because that's the thing, Benji. An organizer can put in no hills at the start so that the GC group wins, but then if sometimes the break just goes like on that stage, and then you get a really weak break winning. And you don't get to break a nice breakaway battle. I mean, it was nice for those 3 riders, but
that was an outlier, right?
That was an outlier in this Giro, was it?
I mean that specific scenario was an outlier.
Yeah, it was strange. It was strange, but yeah, this year was it was pretty dull. Anyway,
fucking horrible.
Yeah, but you're right. There's really not much flat in the 90Ks before the start of that climb. I think it's someone's got to really have cojones to go for it. A team on this stage. Is the weather likely to be bad down here? This is as far south as the race goes in Pompei. Less likely than obviously in the north this time of year. So, but you're right. I think this is really a breakaway win for, I don't know. Thibaut Pinot comes out of retirement. Ciccone, yeah.
He needs a tuck, buddy, though.
I'm going to go with Thibaut Pinot.
Okay. That is going to be interesting.
He actually could win this.
He sees
Aino Rubio and Cepeda coming out to win the stage, and he comes out of retirement to knock them off their bike. But no, Rubio and Cepeda will fight this out for real against Riccitello. Stage 11, flat sprint on the coast from Foiano di Valfortore to Francavilla al Mare. Al Mare means on the coast. That's Italian for you. Thanks for coming.
Congrats.
203 Ks. No chance of crosswinds because we're in Italy. Yeah, it's just a flat sprint for the big boys.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know anything specific when it comes to the final kilometer. So sprint for the big boys, and stage 12 is something different.
Cav?
Stage 12. What, sorry?
Is Cav here?
I don't know if Cav is there. He's going to do the tour for certain.
It's a lot of sprints, though.
Yes, correct. Merlier?
And leave after the second week.
Merlier?
Yeah.
Merlier?
Well, he's not doing the tour, is he? Friend?
Merlier? It's happening. It's definitely happening. Stage 12 is different, though. That's not a Merlier stage, right? We're not looking at a Merlier stage for stage 12. 183 kilometers. And this is that classic style stage that you were looking for, I reckon. Would I go as far as calling it a moody stage? I think I should. The last 70% of this parkour is hilly. The first 30% is flat. So the first 50k is flat. And it's that Recanati region, right? Every time we go to the Recanati region, right? For these hilly parkours?
No? I don't know what that region is.
Castelfidardo? Was that not Recanati? Am I stupid?
I mean, no, you're probably right. I just don't know what Recanati is.
It's an Italian village, my friend.
I mean, is it on the east coast or is it in the middle? Let me have a look.
I don't know, my man.
I mean, you keep saying Recanati region like I should know it. Let me have a look.
I should remember the name for Tirreno hill stages.
Right.
Has to be true. Has to be true.
Yeah, it's on the east coast of the Abruzzo mountain region. Sure, Riccione also rings a bell. Sure, they have hilly stages here. Pidcock, Vanderpool, all those Simon Clark type guys. I think it's breakaway, right? It's 100% breakaway. Flat start though. Flat first
Bettiol.
hours. Bettiol? Because he won that stage ahead of
Cavagna?
Yeah, in a similar stage in the Giro before. So yeah, it's that type of stage.
That was a boring stage.
Was it?
14-minute breakaway or something? Oh, painful.
Okay. I've drawn the short straw here. Stage 13, another flat sprint from Riccione to Cento. Absolutely pancake flat. Like 180 Ks.
Dainese.
Yeah, this is him, right? And he's gone to Tudor?
Yes.
So they got the wild card.
Yes.
Luke, is he better than Arvid Decline? Which one do they take?
Is shouting yes right
I think
now.
Arvid Decline's just a lead-out man for Dainese, isn't he?
No, I think he's like fourth.
Who's the other Dutch guy who's actually the lead-out on Tudor?
Erik Pluimers?
No. He's
Michael Zeilard?
Zeilard, yeah. We'll see the Tudor train. Pluimers, Zeilard, and Decline.
Trentin?
Oh, true, he's on Tudor. They have to send him to this. The classic style stage, the
Michael
Stirato
Storer
stage.
for the mountain stages.
True, he'll win that breakaway one we've had a couple of days ago. The 18K.
A couple of days ago.
The 5.6%.
Boca della Selva?
Yeah, he'll win that one.
Yeah.
Okie dokie.
Okie dokie. Stage 14 is also a completely flat, not sprint stage. It's a time trial. It's 31.2 kilometers, and this is a Filippo Ganna time. And I'm wondering, Olympics involves road, but also track cycling at the same time, right? So I would reckon the Giro and then Olympics for Ganna in that way is logical in my head.
So I'm told, yes.
So you've been told by me just a second ago. So Ganna's going to win this time trial.
Dude, any else? Do they have to? Are they allowed?
Josh Darling.
Are any else allowed to add an extra 10 riders to their roster so they have 40 riders? Because half the team's going to be fucking off for half the year to ride a track at the Olympics. Viviani, Hater, Ganna.
Darling?
No, he's not a tree. Won't do the track.
I don't know.
But he'll win the TT gold.
And who else?
I don't know.
That entire run for four riders?
I forgot Plapp is leading.
Okay.
Did Kung. Is he excited to come second in this to Ganna in this TT, Benji?
I do not know.
It's a great
cannot
TT
tell
for
you.
him. A little bit hilly, 35 minutes. It's actually perfect TT for Kung.
Stefan Kung Olympic gold.
No, they're not allowed.
4 riders per team. It's not impossible. I'm putting on with the road race, right?
International Olympic Committee will not allow Stefan Kung to have
Has
that.
to be second.
Okay, so the reason why I mentioned this TT, so after this TT, or even after stage 13,
Yeah.
after stage 13, there's there's 2 more flat sprints, so maybe Cavendish and pure sprinters leave at that point. And also there's not been a brutal mountain stage to get through. There's just been the TiVo stage where Merlier, he can get through that. So I think
gone.
after 13 or whatever, if he comes, or Groenewegen, or Milan even, if he's not in Ciclamino, he probably is Italian, so he'll stay. But I think teams should be planning to get their sprinters to dip for the Tour at this point.
Cipollini was Italian.
And Pataki.
And they fucked off after 10 stages.
Yeah. It's either that or don't go and they'll just do the Tour. So
yeah.
And now 14, we've had 70 Ks of TT in the first 2 weeks now, before the last mountain stages. So it's different to this year's where we had that Monte Lusari is the last serious stage on GC. Now let's say you have a Thomas, an Aronsman, an Almeida even, who's built up a nice buffer from the 2 time trials and some KGGC stuff on the mountain stages. Then we come to stage 15. The hardest stage in the race, in my opinion. This is what the Giro and RCS, I think, are hoping for, is that riders will be forced to try something on this stage. 222 Ks, brutal stage from Manerba Delgada to Livigno, Mottolino, starting at just over sea level, finishing at 2,000, near 2,400 meters, over 5,000 meters elevation gain, 6+ hour stage. We have no HC climbs though for a little bit. We got 6Ks 5%, 14K 6.5% with irregular climbs there. So that allows a break to form before a long hour and a half valley, before the Aprica Fos flat climb. Again, you know, it's just they're going to be burning calories there. And then there's a climb, right? So the Forcella di Livigno climb is the main climb on this stage. But there's 8K 6.6% before a 5K 7K valley. It's not even categorized or as anything on the official park profiles. 8K is near 7% before 18Ks 7% to 2,300 meters descent. Don't know how technical it is. Before, what does this say? 8.2K 6.5%. The last 2 kilometers are over 9%. Over 2,300 meters, high altitude. Really, really hard stage, Benji. Are we going to do what we've been doing it for years? Does this stage even happen?
Seriously. Don't you dare. Don't you bloody dare. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it anymore.
220 Ks. Going over 2,300 meters in May in Livigno. Livigno's fucking cold.
I hope it happens. That's all I can say.
If it doesn't happen, then man, this race
sucks.
Wasn't really have anything near a Queen stage, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think so. Because like this is the Queen stage. This is the Tour de France's Port La Loze stage. Yeah.
The Forcella climb reminds me of Lowe's a lot. With that uncategorized bit, the rest in Maribel, then it's very and high altitude and very steep for the
steepest
first
section at the end.
Yeah.
So yeah, I see it similar. It's also the same. Lowe's is also 2,300, or am I stupid? Stelvio's 27, right?
Lowe's is 2,300. So this doesn't have the Chima copy. That comes after the second rest day, but this is, I think, the stage where if you're a pure climber, you really want to make the difference. And you can also get riders ahead because it is shallow enough and there's a valley where the gap can form. You might even see what we saw on the low stage, Benji, where we literally had 4 or 5 of the top 10 on GC in the breakaway. Yeah. Simon Yates, Peyo Bilbao, Felix Gall, and somebody else. And then they're basically pulling in the valley in a big break against a peloton that's not much bigger than them, and then you got this brutal climb. So I think it's a really nice stage, actually, because even if you don't, I think you can crack someone on that final climb. If you're really fucked, you can lose a lot of time in that last 3Ks.
I also think so, but it's also possible to already jump away on the climb before and even extend your lead on the last one. Or it could also be that you see someone attacking on the second last one and you see him crumbling on the last one. So it's really interesting. I'd love to see it. I'm looking forward to it. I have no clue who's going to win this because I don't know who's going to be their GC wise.
Quintana.
Are you just going to keep saying names that are basically retired?
He's not retired. He has said he is not retired. So, yeah.
I'm going to choose a suspended rider then, Miguel Angel Lopez.
We also forgot to do Benji. Which is the stage that Adam Hansen turns up at?
Are we already at that stage?
Well, I mean,
we had 200-kilometer flat stages.
We are, but we didn't have many of them. We only had two of them so far, and they're in the south where it's warm. Yeah,
that's true. Maybe it comes later. Maybe it's in the Stelvio stage, and they want Stelvio to get out later.
Yeah, I mean, they've got what have they got? 6 months to have a look at the parkour. We've said it every preview, like you got a problem with the transfers or whatever, or dangerous finish. Like,
there are barely transfers here, so
that's what I mean. I think RCS has actually taken on board some feedback and shorten the transfers. I don't think. I mean, what happened with the Crans Montana stage was very strange this year. I still don't really understand what happened there. I don't think riders have a problem necessarily with a brutal high mountain stage because they can see the rationale for it. Of course, the sprinters don't want to do it, but honestly, they should have gone home before this. I think the riders justifiably have a problem being like, why are we doing a 240k stage that's not relevant for GC? It's going to be a sprint anyway. Shitty roads in the rain. I think that's where they're like, come on, after a long transfer.
Agreed.
And they've taken out a lot of those stages. The only stage, they're on the coast, 200k is just over. Should be okay weather. Anyway.
But it's RCS, not ASO, right?
Yes. Yes, RCS. Sorry, did I say ASO?
No. Just in general, looking at that plays a factor, I think, in how it's policed.
Oh, yeah, riders and the ASO. I can't remember them getting those parkour change if they weren't happy with it.
But also, in addition to that, we're already talking slightly about stages that come after this, but I think next to this climb, the Forcola di Livigno, you only have the Stelvio that truly goes to high mountains.
Yeah.
Is that a consequence of what happened to the Giro in recent years where RCS just doesn't bother getting high mountains anymore and it's a parkour that doesn't really shout, ooh, major mountain stage in that sense?
Well, yeah, because like if you put this... That's the thing, they've put them deep in the race because you get an extra 2 weeks for the snow to thaw and for the weather to improve because you don't want to have this earlier on. So Santuario Europa, they start on stage 2 with a climb, but it doesn't go to high altitude. Should be gravy. You're right. Maybe they're reluctant to have stages. I mean, it still goes to 2,300. Like, it's still pretty serious climb in Livigno. I do worry about the weather because even in May in Livigno, it can be bad, but yeah, I don't know.
Let's hope we're lucky. And
is this balanced enough, though?
Oh?
Is this enough compared to the flat TT?
I reckon
to go after Thomas.
I reckon it fully depends on who is at the start of this race. Because like the thing these days is that all the top GC riders, Roglic, Pogacar,
Remco,
Vingegaard, Remco, they can time trial. Like the difference between them is not going to be 2 minutes in a time trial on paper, unless something really bad happens, unless Vingegaard has sickness, like at the earlier start of the Vuelta, for example, the first TT there, second TT actually. But based on that, you would say, oh, the TTs won't make that big of a difference. But at this race, we won't have that. We won't have the top GC riders against each other. So you're talking about Thomas, who's a good TT rider, versus, let's, for the sake of it, say that Carapaz or Landa shows up to do a Giro Tour double for whatever reason. They arrive here, they lose minutes to Thomas. Then it becomes difficult for them to gain as much time on these climbs necessarily against Thomas. Because Thomas is also a pretty decent climber. I think we can't forget that aspect.
Yeah,
unless he arrives in Vuelta form, then, well...
Almeida didn't drop him in the Giro.
Correct. At once.
When?
On Monte Bondone?
No, Thomas came straight across to him.
Oh, yeah.
And was pulling.
You're right. Correct.
So, yeah, I think it's interesting enough. You were going to say stage 16, Benji, after. So we then have the second rest day straight into stage 16.
Yeah, I want to talk about stage 16 because the first time I saw this profile, I was crying in my bed all night. Livigno to Monte Pana starts at high altitude. We've got 2 very short climbs from the get-go, 4.7 kilometers, 6.3% to Passedera, and then 4 kilometers at 6.5% to the Passo del Foscagno. And basically, these are just the tops of climbs that we're visiting before we dive down towards roughly 1,300 altitude before we start the Passo dello Stelvio from the... It's still a hard side, but it's not the hard side of the Stelvio, I would say. Stelvio will still be hard, especially at this point in the race. I also think that we're talking about the day just after the last rest day. So if you come out of the rest day with bad legs, you're completely fucked at the start because this is going to hurt badly. So yeah, Stelvio is there. It's 19.6 kilometers at 7.4%. But this is with 60 kilometers into the stage that we top. Then we've got roughly 25 kilometers of proper descending, 40 kilometers of false flat descending, 50 kilometers of valley. So we're talking about 120 kilometers between the Stelvio bottom and the foot of the final climb. And sorry, but this is a crime against humanity in my eyes.
I mean,
this is illegal. This is human torture. To let us watch the Stelvio be used like this. First of all, even if you use this side can also be interesting. We saw it in 2017 Giro stage 16.
20Ks at 7.5% to 2,800 meters.
Exactly. This was just before the Umbrai Pass. I think that was a stage where Dumoulin had to take a shit in the gutter by the side of the road after the Stelvio. But that matters if it's just before the final climb. It matters. If there's a 100-kilometer valley afterwards, it still has an effect. There's attrition there. But it's a waste of the Stelvio.
No, there is attrition if someone paces it.
Yeah.
Who is going?
Breakaway formation, maybe? If it's not already formed on the earlier climbs?
I mean, there's two climbs of 10 minutes, 12 minutes beforehand, and then there's flat before the Stelvio. Like, yeah, the attrition argument works if someone is motivated to pace it, but who is going to be motivated to pace Stelvio full gas and then then you just chill in the valley for 2 hours afterwards. And then the final climbs aren't even, it's not like you then go into serious high mountains to finish where you're like, yeah, we'll definitely crack him then after we've done the Stelvio full gas. This is just breakaway wins, and it's undulating finish, like 7K, 7%. It is over 200Ks. Very strange stage, actually.
It's still a hard climb, the last climb. Let's be clear about that. There's steep sections in there.
Yeah.
But using Stelvio like that, look at 2020 for a second. Look at 2020. Go back to stage stage 18? I reckon, to Lago di Cancano. Was that the stage? I reckon it was. Yes, it was. We had 2 breakaway formation climbs in the first 75 kilometers of the stage. 40 kilometers at 5%, 9 kilometers at 9%. Then a 50-kilometer valley, and then we start the Stelvio. 25 kilometers, 7.4% before we get a descent to the final climb. And this is how the Stelvio is perfectly used. Sure, as final mountain, I would also like the Stelvio. That's also cool. But to have a harder climb before a not-so-hard climb incentivizes everybody to bloody launch on the Stelvio. That's what I want to see. And, I'm physically hurt by this. I actually am angry about this. How the fuck can you use a Stelvio like this?
I don't know. I don't really know. I'm
forever disappointed.
I'm not too up in arms about it. I guess because
I love the Stelvio.
Maybe Livigno paid. So has Livigno paid them good money for? They got a stage finish, a stage start, and the rest day, and so they pay a lot for that. Andorra had that the other year in the Tour, and so you pay extra for that.
Andorra or Andorra?
My Andorra, yeah. I don't know. Maybe someone goes full beans on the Stelvio and they drop a GC container and then they keep behind in the valley.
I heard like this argument of like, ooh, remember that Chris Froome went crazy on the Colle del Finestre on that one stage in 2018? That was different. That was different because the Colle del Finestre was halfway the stage. It was like a 50-kilometer valley or something. No, and in that valley there was a climb. So that's very different compared to a stage with a 120-kilometer valley after the Stelvio, and I'm upset. I'm not okay.
I mean, that finished with a difficult climb. The final climb was like 6.5 Ks at 10%. So anyway, I think Break will win this, but you got to be a good climber still to make it. I'm going to go with Darwin out of Puma. No, I'm just kidding.
No.
It'll be Store.
Jose Rucano.
It'll be Store or someone. Yeah.
Jose Rucano comes back from the dead.
Ana Rubio or whoever. Maybe that's a lot of value for Oyo Lascano to anticipate, isn't it?
Nah. I know who wins this. Back in 2012, there was a legendary Belgian man that rose up on the Stelvio, dropped Michele Scarponi as well, and won on the Passo dello Stelvio.
Tom Bone?
Finished third or fourth in GC in that Giro, Thomas de Gent.
Oh, yeah.
He's going to win here. He's going to come back.
I'm not so sure. The next stage, stage 17. Now, this is something where you can really try something. 160 kilometers from Selva.
Puma.
He didn't get sussy, did he?
I'm actually
Let me just
not
check.
sure.
Didn't get sussy, but okay, so we're in the clear there. And he's technically still riding for a Turkish team, so he's not retired, Benji, just so you know. Stage 17 from Selva di Valcardena to Passo del Brocon. Yeah, him and some of the boys back in the day in Romandy was exciting. This stage starts out the gate, 9K, 7.3%. The climb they should have finished on the day before, I don't know if they're in the related region, up to 2,240 meters. Descent, then an undulating 20K climb with some steeper sections. Descent, another climb, 6K, 6%. Descent, and then another 13.2K, 6.5% climb. And then the finish is hard, 12.1K, 6.5%. Fake news climb, because there's a 4.5K, 10% section in this. So each peak in this stage gets progressively lower, unfortunately. So the first one is at 2250, as I said, but the last one's at 1600.
Yeah, but I don't mind that necessarily.
That's fine. That's fine.
As long as the second last climb is hard enough to launch on. And I'm not 100% certain if it's on the edge for me.
You can make people tired by then.
That's true. But I'm talking about attacking someone on that climb. And that's with a plateau on top.
You need a satellite rider.
Will do that. That's true.
You need a satellite rider. I think this screams to me Bora trying something stage. This sort of stage. But I really think if you got 2 leaders, if you got satellite riders, this is where you can. But you can also, Geraint Thomas is in pink, and he has Arensman, De Plus, Sivakov's gone. I forgot Sivakov will be on. Sivakov might lead the Giro at UAE.
Might not be wrong. Interesting.
Yeah. Anyway, if you've got a really strong team, you can also lock this stage down because the climbs are not so steep. But it's kind of the stage I would normally expect to be in week 2, paired with the hardest mountain, a harder mountain stage, kind of like what we had this year from memory. They were supposed to be the Crans Montana stage, and then stage 15 was that's kind of a classicsy style stage. Oh no, that was the Bergamo stage with longer climbs. I'm gonna go with Ben Healy to win this one, Benji.
That's a really interesting take. I like that. I'm gonna go with Jarlinson Pantano.
He did get sussied.
He did.
You can't pick him then.
Well, he's back. He came back the day that he got unsussied.
Did he try to go for Colombian Parliament?
I'm not jumping into Colombian politics here, my friend.
I swear he tried to get elected.
I swear there was drama about Quintana and about Bernal about their politics at some point. So
I swear Pantano went for like local elections and some current riders endorsed him.
Wait, he's suspended again? No.
No, never mind. It expired in April.
Okay, he's back at EPM.
Yeah.
It was a Conti team back in the day. Now it's a club team.
Anyway, that was stage 17. All right, stage 18, Benji. Sprint. This is the Dainese stage, isn't it?
Yes.
Every other sprinter's gone home.
We already said him earlier. That's a problem.
Yeah.
Is Milano here or someone?
Milano or Milan, yeah.
Is there another sprinter? Ethan Vernon?
Ackerman on Q365. Who does he ride for?
Wait, Ackerman's going to Q365?
No, he's not in Israel. They'll send him
I
to the
thought so.
they'll send him to the Giro.
Muschetti's not contracted yet for next year, so we don't know if he's.
You got to. I think you send Ewan to the Giro. I think he's better on those sprints after the 2K 4% sort of thing than Groenewegen.
Ewan plus Simon Yates at the race.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, this is a sprint. Stage 19 is also quite a strange stage, I must say, for a week 3 from Mortigliano to Sappada. It is mostly flat for the first 90 kilometers, and then there's a 6K 4% climb followed by a 4.3K 9.6% climb all low altitude, then 6K 6.2%, another sort of medium mountain little punch, and then the Cima Sappada 7.3Ks 5.3%.
But
it's a false summit. There's some steep sections in there. Yeah, like this is not the stage where if you've lost a minute in GC, I think you can make the difference. No, unless someone's really bad and you launch on the Passo Duron, the first steep one.
it's gonna be hard. It's not impossible to do something. That Passo Duron is something interesting though. That could be like a raid stage launcher, but I feel like you need attrition for that beforehand as well to be able to do that. It's not a crazy long stage either, so Luke Plapp wins from the breakaway.
Nah, Carapaz got this. This false start uphill finish is all screaming Carapaz to me. All right, round.
Luke Plapp, my man.
Finish us
How
off.
are you against Australians?
I'm not. It's the tour.
He's riding Olympics though.
True. Yeah, he's running Olympics. The TT's good for him though. Yeah, I don't know what Jacob will do. Anyway, round us off with stage 20, Benji, our final mountain stage.
Mortagliano to Bassano del Grappa. Initially, we thought this might be one Monte Grappa, but it's two Monte Grappas in there. So the first half of this race is basically flat, some tiny hills in there. So nothing major for breakaway formation, I would say.
There's a Muro in there. There's a 1K 12% climb.
There's one Muro in there. 1 kilometer at 12%, just like randomly 28 kilometers into the stage because they're like, we need a Poggio in this race. It's also called a Poggio because I learned 2 Giro previews ago that Poggio means hill in Italian. Didn't know that until the comment section kept shouting it at me after I made a joke that it was called just the Poggio, just like Milano Sanremo. So anyway, my Italian lacking behind me. Monte Grappa starts basically after 45% of the stage. We got the first Monte Grappa, 18.2 kilometers at 8.1%. Pretty rough climb. In the descent, we've got one tiny hill, 500 meters at 9.2%. So that's interesting. And then directly at the bottom, we go straight up the Monte Grappa again. Exactly the same climb, 18.2%, 8.1%. And then a descent to the finish. 174 kilometers. You can still make a difference on this stage. And I hope they try to do it on the first Monte Grappa, but it's way more likely that happens on the second Monte Grappa.
Nah, for sure, though. You know what's going to happen. Cat Killer comes to the front first Monte Grappa, and he starts pacing for Caruso, and then Bilbao and Co just go crazy on the first descent. And there's also that 1,500 meter 9.2% climb in the middle of the descent is rude.
Yeah. Bilbao wins this. Johnny Zagire? Nah, it needs to rain and it's too hard.
I like Bilbao for it, I must say. But he might get it's 18.2Ks, 8% is properly hard. And
sorry?
Yeah.
Vincenzo Nibali comes back from retirement for this one.
I mean, he was at the
finish
presentation.
Exactly. He was just pre-announcing it. I think that's it.
Steven Kruiswijk, descent, banishing the Nibali demons off the top of Monte Grappa. It's clear. But yeah, I think you can make a difference, and even that last little punch you can try and like Ayuso. I'm picking Ayuso for the stage because he's got the descending in him. Skelmers is also a brilliant descender. Yeah, if they're there. But then the final stage is a sprint in Rome, 126 Ks. Not a full procession stage, or is it? I'm not really sure.
It is.
It is? Okay. Cav wins. Alrighty. How do you feel about the parkour now we've gone through it in painstaking detail, Benji?
I don't know how to feel about it. I feel like I've got this... We got to take a look at the parkour last year. We were happy about the Giro parkour. The Giro parkour looked good of 2023.
I think we were, yeah.
And reality is that riders make the race.
It rained the whole time.
That was also one of the reasons. But also next to that, GC wasn't looking like it needed to be active. There was limited incentive in each team to do something, and that fucked up everything. And also next to that, some teams were tactically not realizing what they should do. Like Ineos should have paced harder on us on Trichime stage, for example, to try and open up the race. But they were playing too defensively. In hindsight, definitely. But we also said it the evening itself. This parkour does not shout amazing to me, but you can make the race if you want to make the race with it.
Yeah, I think so too.
It's an 7.5 out of 10 for me.
The problem is, right, say Poggy goes. He already beats you up on Europa. He then is in pink after the stage 14 TT. Who is going to try anything? I mean, that's kind of true with even whatever. That's with whatever parkour with Vingegaard if he gets a huge gap, or if Vingegaard or Pogacar or Roglic don't have the other to fight against, it's not going to be interesting.
Let's be real. If Pogacar is here, he wins this race.
Yeah, it's a good race for him.
What are you going to say?
I reckon you can crack him pretty bad on that stage 15.
Wow. The problem is you need someone of the caliber of Vingegaard to be able to do that in the first place.
Nah, Simon or Adam can do it.
I don't see it.
Nah, G.
So Adam can do it. What? He's on the same team.
I think Geraint Thomas can drop Poggy on that climb. No problem.
I don't see it.
I think Thomas can beat him on that stage, but then Poggy can take a lot of time on other stages. So there's probably 20 other stages where Poggy has an advantage. Even Monte Grappa, right? It's only 2 climbs. So like who's going to be... You can't really put someone, I don't think, on 4,000 kilojoules halfway up second Monte Grappa because there's only been... Yeah, the first one's going to be hard, but I don't know. So what would you do if you were... So Roglic is doing Tour, Benji. What would you do now? Should we rate it? I think this is a 7.5 out of 10.
I said the same. 7.5 out of 10.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
No, you can take my 7.5 out of 10. You don't need to worry about it. You can have it.
Your Ineos. You got Rodriguez. Oh, we forgot to mention. You got Rodriguez, Thomas, and Pidcock. No, I'm doing GC. I don't care about silent about GC. Who do you send 1, 2, or all 3 to this race?
Thomas and Pidcock.
Not
Pidcock
Carlos.
needs to prep for mountain bike. Carlos goes to the Tour.
Yeah, I
you need
agree.
someone at the Tour, and I think Thomas can do this.
Okay. The TTKs are just too enticing for Thomas, I think, and they're mostly flat.
You got to look at it differently, right? We know that Remco wants to ride the Tour de France. Roglic wants to ride the Tour de France. So we're only really looking at Pogacar and UAE leaders.
Yeah, so then with UAE, who do you send out? Adam Yates, Sivakov, Almeida Ayuso.
Wait. So if you're Thomas, for example, and you look at that list and you're like, who is still ahead of me at this point? Adam Yates, I think.
Yeah.
Pogacar. So you kind of got to hope that those go to the Tour de France, send Thomas to the Giro, and try and win the GC.
Yep. He'll take his chances against Ayuso and Almeida having a bad day. And with his TT buffer. So, but for UAE, who would you send?
Sivakov?
Yeah.
But not as leader.
Not as leader?
As co-leader.
Co-leader, yeah.
And looking at the parkour, I want Almeida here. I can't live through a Giro without Almeida. I've been so addicted to supporting Almeida in the Giro in the last few years. I need him here. Like, I know he wants to ride the Tour de France. I know he wants to start the bloody Vuelta in Portugal. But, I would send
Sivakov, Almeida, and Ayuso.
I would send Sivakov, Almeida, and Adam Yates.
You put Ayuso in the Tour with Poggy.
I use him on Poggy in the Tour. How funny is that?
And what? And Vine's the Mountain Domestique.
In the Giro.
In the Tour.
Adam Yates can do another one. If
Gus can do it,
Yates can do it.
Yeah, okay. And Jumbo now.
Olaf Kooi.
He can't ride GC, Benji. I keep telling you.
I mean, the sprints. Wout van Aert GC is happening, my friend.
They got Jorgensen
GC.
And Vingegaard.
Jorgensen.
You think it's okay for him?
Jorgensen.
I think he's low key. As I said, he's poggy light. Like he'll be looking at that Storato stage and the Hill Classic stage, and he'll be thinking, I can do something on those stages.
But has Roglic leaving? Well, it's great for Jorgensen that Roglic leaves.
I think Tullet should do the Giro.
Probably. Tullet and Jorgensen. But isn't Jorgensen the kind of ride? Let's say Wout does the Giro, for example. Isn't Jorgensen the kind of guy that you put in his role in the Tour de France?
Yeah, that's the thing. I think I really want Jorgensen in the Tour team.
I don't.
Why?
Because I want him at the Giro.
Yeah, but
I want Jorgensen to be free.
Jorgensen to be an unbelievable domestique in the Tour. Always gets in the breakaway, can pull the flat. I think, but you're right. It's with Roglic leaving and with them not having anyone else in yet, there's a free spot.
Putting Wout van Aert in the Giro would be a waste. Koi would be doing most of the sprints. There would be one or two punchy stages where Wout can really go for himself. Might be a breakaway where he tries to do it, but on the other hand,
two TTs.
Yeah, but
he ain't winning that second flat one against Ghana if they haven't improved the flat setup.
Yeah, but those TTs don't support my narrative. So let's just finger them away for a second.
Yeah. He can leave after the second TT.
Just have Wout at the Tour and Jorgensen at the Giro. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, but
the Tour has TTs too.
Yeah, but Van Aert he didn't have a good year this year. Don't you want him to just clean up some easy Giro stages?
Send him to the Crow race if he wants to clean up easy races.
I mean, the Giros are slightly more prestigious than the Crow race.
I had a dream about a Crow race recently.
I want to see
yesterday morning.
Really?
I was dreaming that, first of all, the entire peloton slid out at the exact same time. But secondly,
that wasn't a dream. That really happened in 2022.
Kelderman was on his way to win the stage, and then Pidcock came out of nowhere to take it away. I'm devastated. The man can't even win in my dreams. And then I woke up.
Poor Wilco. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know who they'll send. But I think it's going to be, hopefully, does Enrique Mas? Nah, he doesn't do it. He can't do wet weather. Nah, seriously, if you were advising Poggy,
team, my friend,
because the big question is Poggy, would you say do this Giro, assuming the Tour de France parcours is going to be brutal like it's been leaked? For his best interest, not because you want to watch him at the Giro.
I think it would be shit for entertainment if he's at the Giro, because he'd be too good.
I think he should do it.
But I think I would do it.
It's a good parkour for him, man.
Giro Olympics Vuelta, is that possible?
Yeah. Yeah.
Giro Olympics Vuelta I'd like to see, but I want to see him at the Tour, so that's kind of meh.
Yeah, of course, but you can also do the Giro Tour double. Frankly, like, he's not Van der Poel or Van Aert. Is he really going to win that Olympics road race?
It's not it. Sorry,
it's not. I'm not saying
impossible.
It's not impossible, but he's not. It's not that hard a parkour.
It's unpredictable with the amount of riders per team. It's 4 riders, 3 riders, 2 riders per team. It's not a 7-rider team for every country.
But would you not do the Giro Tour double because you might have a 10% chance of winning that Olympic road race?
I'd like the Giro Tour double.
I think so. And if you feel good, you can still do it afterwards.
Yeah, but then Almeida won't be here. I want Almeida at the Giro.
You can still give me a domestique.
Fuck no.
It's Almeida.
Portugal will not stand for this. Here's me representing Portugal.
I still don't know what type of rider Almeida is. I don't know what he's good at.
Come on. He's clearly peak GC rider.
No, I mean like long climbs or short climbs or unipuertos or difficult stages. It makes no sense to me. It changes every stage.
Portuguese Spontani.
Okay. Anyway, that was our Giro route reveal reaction on Saturday, 14 October. The Tour de France is revealed on the 25th of October. Vuelta's normally in January, so we'll wait a little bit for that. There might be some more transfer news coming out. The market, to me, feels about 1 month delayed, partly due to the merger rumors freezing the market in the last month. We might have a Guangxi recap, actually, on... I don't know if the last stage... Is the last stage on Tuesday?
Have you watched the stage so far?
I've watched every stage.
Oh, I gotta do a review before we do that podcast.
it was Olaf Koy-Sprint and some other sprints. Jorgensen tried this morning, but the GC stage I think is tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
Seb Berwick going for the W. Am I allowed to do a Berwick transfer plug or not?
I think you
We're
can,
deep
and I'll
in
do
the
a
pod.
plug afterwards, okay? We'll do
Okay.
2 plugs. Deal?
Someone explain to me how Kevin Colleoni on Jayco, the same age as Berwick, got a contract at Intermarché, and I don't think Intermarché offered Berwick one. Or like, is that just anti-Australian bias? Because Berwick is, don't tell me, honestly, Benji, Berwick is better than that guy. Why isn't Jayco offering Berwick a contract?
I'm taking a look at Berwick. And
I know he's my mate. He's 23. He's been on Israel, not the best team. They got relegated. His results are not, they're pretty good, I think.
I'm taking a look at Seb Berwick. For the people that don't know Seb Berwick, he's 23 years old. He rides for Israel at the moment, out of contract. Destroying U23 riders at Tour Alsace.
But he's only
that's
23.
something.
I know he's a little bit older, but he's only 23.
Yeah, he's a year older than most of the riders in the race, or 2 years old. But it's not the biggest deal. On Planche Belfier, pretty good ride. But most importantly, he went to a Chinese race, the Tour of Hainan, and he beat a multi-Tour de France winner there. He beat Chris Froome there.
And Oscar Sevilla.
Well, technically, Oscar Sevilla won GC, so maybe...
On bonies, though.
On bonies, that's true.
Yeah. I'm just saying,
Berwick would be co-leader at Medellin.
Like, he was on Neo Pro.
I think he'd be valuable.
He came second on Herald Sun Tour. We had 2 Pro Mountaintop finishes. He finished on the same time as Hindley in both those Mountaintop finishes in 2020. COVID ruined his last U23 season. I got to Israel, they literally got relegated during his Neo Pro contract there. Yeah. I think I'm very surprised that an FDJ or Cofidis haven't
Tudor,
picked him up.
Domestique for Store.
Yeah, but he also, he's going to probably score over 450 UCI points. That's just obviously, I'm completely biased, but I was right about Jay Vine. I was right about Binny. And
you're right.
Definitely.
Right about Binny? Oh, yeah, true.
In November 2020, I said...
Well, my dude, I was playing Pro Cycling Manager in 2020 with Binny in my teams, my friend.
Yeah. Anyway, you got a plug coming. Is there some poor Belgian guy that can't find a team on one of the 20 Belgian teams?
No, there's this poor YouTuber called Benji Naesen on YouTube that just uploaded 2 videos, and they're doing slightly under what I expected them to do. So please support my YouTube channel. It's called Benji Naesen. I just climbed the Outer Quadamon and so forth in those videos. Also, my first mountain climb in that. If you want to see me suffer, check the videos out and support it, please.
Go check out Benji's videos. Seeing him suffer on the Quamon, always good entertainment. So yeah, go and give them a look. And thanks for listening. As always, let us know what you think about the Giro parcours. Should Poggy go? Who do you think should go? That's the big question. Now we've done the parcours, the riders make it, and I can't wait to see after the Tour de France reveal. Maybe we'll see some provisional schedules. But until then, ciao.